One. Okay, we're ready. Hold on.
Well, happy New Year. Thanks for coming out. I would like to call to order our January 8th meeting of the first item on the agenda is the approval of our December meeting minutes. Indicates on the agenda November. Anyone have any questions? Changes? You make it not something.
I'll second that one.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Next is the approval of the expenditures. The December prepaid check 71797, 71803, totaling $5,491.04. And the January warrants check 71804, 71992, totaling $141,288.45. If you didn't have a chance to see these, since they didn't come into our packet until this afternoon, let me know, give you a minute, just look at them. You notice anything usual? Like, is there anything in particular in there that someone might question?
I think it is all, I think there's anything that you wouldn't have seen.
Okay, so if someone has any questions about those? I'd like to take a motion to approve. Okay. Thank you, Heather. Mary, all in favor? Now, our financial reports, December 28th, report summary sheet, budget report, and the income report. And the same thing, John's pulling that up. We didn't have a chance to look at that. We are now sent through our fiscal year. We've reallocated some. Is there anything, Mike or Eric? I know you.
And the periodicals, microphones, that's not.
You know, that is an expense that's usually loaded at the very beginning of. And that is one of the things that we did reallocate.
Equipment purchases,
Equipment purchases is an area where we may want to do some reallocating as we come later. We did purchase some replacement self-check machines that might better have come from capital expenses than from equipment purchases. At a later date, we'll have to reallocate them.
My report, a couple of things. Thank you, trustees, for getting education done. I think our report to Jen, the first student. There is a continuing education opportunity that I mentioned last month. Anyone has time to attend, and there will be a recording on that day through Web Junction on January 30th, called Building on That Information from the Church that I think really aligns with what the plan is currently. I don't know who's doing it, but that's there if you want to. The other things, a couple other things, we are meeting tomorrow with the commissioner and deputy commissioner of the Public Works Department about the parking. So we were meeting last year with public safety. Parking is a funny thing in Saratoga. Public safety is responsible for enforcement, but Public Works does some things, signage, and with some of the changes coming here with potentially charging for some parking in the city, that seems to be falling under their umbrella. So we will update you if we have any information after that meeting. And I have been watching, I shared that I've been watching the planning board agendas, and the building that is going to potentially be constructed across the street is on the agenda for this week. So I asked Don, I sent the link so that you could see the scale a little bit here. I'm planning on attending that meeting on Thursday night, and working with Mike to submit some public comments ahead. So if you want to, that is the schematic of the space. You could, if you scroll down the next one, there are some mock-ups of the actual building. That is the building. It is currently 6 stories, 32 residential units, and 4,423 square feet of commercial space. Going down, and there's some interesting. So here's where they did actual mock-ups. They're very clever. So that's looking, the library would be on the left right now. That's the building from that side. And if you scroll down again, that's the from Philo Street. And you scroll down again, there is one looking directly at it from the parking lot. So you are welcome to share anything with Ike or I that you might want to have included in the public comments. The couple of things that I plan on mentioning, one is obviously the parking that we're trying to work on. They are leasing 50 spaces in the Civic Center parking garage, several blocks that way. And there's no parking on site. The other thing that I was going to bring to their attention is just the site planning and the site construction and how they're, gonna to be really mindful of how that's approached.
Are there other buildings? Like,
No, they haven't said anything about that, and I wondered, well, why did they organize it with this parking lot? But that one has there's no vending machines or anything right now, there's no attendance, because that's so much closer than the several blocks. What it showed in that.
Probably, it's not want to in a way that.
Well, they're going to have to if they're going to charge for parking next time, so that may change. What it says for commercial retail tenants is just that there'll be one space in the front that's those kind of big windows that maybe it says, coffee shop or some other kind of thing like that. And then the other space is over 2,000 square foot of commercial retail space. The tenants have some storage kind of units to the left, if we're looking straight ahead in the back, and, bicycle storage, things like that, and there is a short-term loading, parking to the right down that little, it's almost like an alley, and that's where their trash is and stuff in the back of the building.
There's.
And there's really no parking on Henry, there's no parking on Putnam. Right, or one thing we've been aware of, where our business is with the building that was built next to us, is they left no kind of short-term, quick parking for anybody who needed any, service work done, UPS drop-off, FedEx, repair people, anything, they didn't leave anything. Yeah, it was really, we can't kind of believe they approved it without that. So it would be the same issue as where is anybody like that gonna go? And it will add to our conversation tomorrow around how do we actually, what signage does the library need? Because you just look at that and you think, well, where do we think they're gonna park? Right.
Are there other six-story buildings? I'm sorry.
Are-
I'll go over right ahead. I didn't realize.
Are there other six-story buildings? I don't know that, but when they showed can you scroll back, Don, like when we looked down at it from the other way,
Well, right.
can we see, no, it's not far enough to see. I think it was I think this is lower, is this lower than what it initially was? It's a max, this is 70 feet. I think I saw somewhere that it's 70 feet. My guess is 70 feet is kind of a maximum in the downtown. But that's a guess. Seems like I've seen that number.
The next house building in that direction is probably the first part. And in that direction is probably what, I don't know what it's called now, but it's the pavilion.
But
Right.
those are both on main streets.
Right, exactly.
Not right, I'm sorry.
And there's not a single crosswalk. It's already, like, where Putnam curves that Gardner, like the alley. So
Yeah, there's a funny, actually, sorry, Don, can you scroll down to the next picture that showed it from the parking? Nope, sorry, the next one. You see the people crossing the street. And they're diagonal, there's like in several different places.
I mean, people have gotten out now.
Right,
What's your meeting with DPW?
yes, tomorrow.
For the purpose of,
The conversation we started trying to have last June about the parking lot in general and having, around the signage and how long and our lease agreement with the city and all of those pieces. There's a separate issue of if the city moves forward with the potential parking, and Heather might know more about this, it's my understanding it's the lots that we're gonna be charged. There's then another issue that this is a lot that can't be charged because it indicates in the lease agreement that this can't be charged, can't charge to park here. So there's all kinds of tangled,
In the purchase agreement. Just to be clear, it's not a
Right.
lease agreement.
right,
talking about bar.
yeah.
Yes, with that, yeah.
But that, so that's what I was saying, is they don't deal with the enforcement of the lot, but they seem to be dealing with the signage, and they seem to be spearheading this other project, must be with the city council's support, as they're working on that other element of parking.
They presented
safety is the one that does.
right?
Signage that we want, but it doesn't look at flat and paper.
Yeah, well, and also things, that it's not overnight and that it's, whatever would also,
They would never give that. Sure.
who knows? Who knows? But because now there's this other issue with if they're going to have the lots be paid, and it says in the agreement that this cannot charge for parking here, then this lot becomes this anomaly of, it cannot be the only lot in Saratoga that's a free lot, right? What started as one public parking issue could become many.
Yeah, I mean, I think the case was for us. That you need to control one part.
So other than the parking, we can mention the pedestrian safety, that's a good one to mention, thank you for that. And the site planning and construction, and how all of that.
Allows for the
services.
And what
They're gonna lease property. I don't know if the city does this for anybody else.
I don't think that they're leasing it from the city. Well, actually, they would be leasing it from the city because the city owns that parking garage,
But
right?
it's really the city centers, right, they're making center, not.
But in any event, it's temporary in nature. Sure. So if that were seized, let's say it was 5 years, if it was, that would all again improve the pressure.
Right, and then, Don, if you scroll down, there's also another view from the back. So it's a very large building. You can see the library now is in terms of scale, and how far back it goes.
And wasn't this the issue, one of the issues with parking, but also the massive scale of buildings in the previous iteration of this project? Years ago, wasn't there a similar concern about just because the cap on the height of the building is 70 feet, or whatever it is, doesn't have all 70 feet, it's not appropriate for what's.
Right,
surrounding
and
it.
I think that there were more units initially. I think that they have reduced the number of units. And, what at least historically that I always hear all of them say is, well, we can't afford it unless we qualify. So I don't know if that's gonna be part of what they say. My intention was that it was why it made more sense if we submit our comments ahead, because I have no idea, how long the meeting is gonna go, what they're actually gonna hear, it's kind of indicated to me if I submit comments ahead, then everyone sees them.
Who's going with you to the parking meeting? The parking lot.
The parking lot meeting tomorrow is,
Jim's gonna come.
Jen, me, were you gonna try to come?
I can come to the beginning of it.
Okay, and you saw that they changed it again?
Yes, and that's why I can't.
It's changed times a bunch of times, and it's the commissioner who was Jason Phillip, and the deputy commissioner who was Mike Beach. And I think that's it. So that's, we'll see. Where that,
Yeah, are you going to the planning? board
yes,
meeting?
on Thursday, I'm going to the planning board meeting, but I don't think I'm allowed to just.
Is there a public comment?
There's a public comment, but that's what I'm saying is my understanding is it's better for me to submit a public comment in writing ahead, because then that goes to all of them. So I figured I would do that, and then but I was also going to attend, partly because then I hear what everybody's talking about, and I hear the questions. What I get now is just the agendas, and you can pull up the project and kind of all the forms, but you don't have any context of, are people all supporting this? Are people not supporting this? And this is the first time it's come back to them. It was in design review for a while. So
Do we know what their, like, what the process is, like, or what they're doing at this meeting? Is it like, is not finalized at that?
I don't know. It's hard for me to tell, and I have, so I don't know whether then it's kind of, if, how often, I mean, maybe somebody else knows here, how often though something that goes in front of planning that hasn't been there for a long time just gets an instant stamp without coming back with questions. Yeah.
So this is design review, you know?
This is, no,
Who is it?
planning.
Not zoning, not.
Gone through
Planning.
design review, got, I
Oh,
don't
it's
know
been
how
through
many,
design review.
it's been through design review. This
Not
is,
majority.
this is planning, and the group who is submitting these plans is the MRB group. That is, that they are engineering, architecture, and surveying, so they are not, you know, whoever would be construction. And it doesn't say, I don't know if the units are condo or the units are apartments.
Is this one of the, so-called affordable housing?
I don't.
I think it is. I think that the previous mayor had talked about it's supposed to be more affordable housing.
So that's something I'll listen for, and what they consider affordable, what, you know, So if you have any thoughts about it and you want to, you know, include, something, I didn't want to draft the public comments, but our public comments until after we, about the parking. But if you have any thoughts, please send them our way. I have to submit them by midday Thursday. And obviously, if anything, in particular comes up that I think you should know about, I will be in touch before our. Like a bus stop? I don't think there's any CDTA bus stop right there. I think the closest CDTA bus stop would be over on Spring. Right.
There is one.
We're on the road, going up.
Right.
Lake Ave, Spring Street.
Yeah, I don't think they want to be driving on this road. CDTA buses. There what?
Since there's no parking, when they assume that
There are a handful of parking spaces over here in front of.
That few spots in front of Bailey's.
And then a few up in front of.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so that is, so anybody have any questions about any of those things for me? That's
just
it.
the web junction training, did you
Yes.
send that out, or you just?
No, I just told you, do you want me to send it to you?
No, I can find it. but
Yeah,
I
web
wanted to make
junction.
sure I didn't miss it.
Yeah, Web Junction, and it's January 30th. And those are, like I said, if you can't attend that day, you can, and it's free, and you can register, and then you just get the recording after. And you get ahead on your continuing education for 2024. Okay, so let's see. I think you are first.
I didn't know if there were any questions about my report. I included some circulation information just to illustrate, you know, we've been talking for the last couple of years about this switch that we've been making from, you know, really illustrating the decline in the circulation of disc media, of DVD, movies and music in that format in favor of streaming formats and really books. We've always been a reading population. But this year, the difference is really striking. Being at the top 100 circulating items in our collection, when 95 of those things are books and magazines. And it is striking to me that it continues to be that 17 to 18% of those top 100 circulating things still seem to be held in things.
We all know.
And if you are ever in the children's room or at the circulation desk, you will see kids, parents walking home with armloads of those things. So those are not things that are borrowed in isolation, they're borrowed in. The other thing that I thought I would highlight was that we have started the process of our elevator refurbishment replacement process. It's kind of a Byzantine process because we are a school district library, the process we have to go through or have gone to get our permits for these projects has always gone through the state education. We have hit a little bit of a snag. This happened to us a number of years ago that there has been some question about the ownership of the building. By law in the state of New York, because we're a school district library, we cannot collect taxes or sell bonds. The school district sell bonds or collect taxes. That's that for us. So because the school district sells the bond, technically they're the owner of the building, even though we maintain it, etc. Which means that we go through the state education department. A number of years ago, through communication with the school district and the Office of Facilities Planning, State Education Department, we all agreed that it's more expeditious for us to deal directly with the Office of Facilities Planning rather than doing this triangulation with the school district to get our permit to do this project. For a number of reasons, because it's faster and because ultimately the desires of the library board always prevail. So even though the school board owns the building, they have to do what the library board wishes. So they essentially have to rubber stamp the wishes of the library. So they said, let's kind of move in and we deal with them. Facilities planning that agreed to that. So something changed. The very first step. Our letter of intent that we do a capital project that requires a permit with our elevator. We got a communication back from the Office of Facilities Planning saying it's unclear who owns the building. We can't proceed with permitting the project until we hear from them. So I went back and we found the communication from the previous administration of the school district. And here's all of this communication that says we do this. And they said, okay, that clarifies it. We can proceed. And this morning, I got a letter saying, there are more questions. Again. So this is where we stand. So I have been in communication again today with the new superintendent. And they're investigating. They clarify things with the office. So at the moment we're at a stand. We see if we need to hire another lawyer.
Are we unique in that, what to say, agreement or contract with who?
No, it's the law of the state of New York. So what I think happened is, and the communication I got from the person at the Office of Facilities Planning was that the last time we submitted, somebody made a note on the application saying that the building was owned by the library. Yeah, so, and I think that what that was that there was agreement between the state education department and the school district and the library that this is ownership. Plus, so what I'm not sure of is that the ownership matters because I think that whether we have possession of the building or the school district has possession of the building. I think because for a school district library, they still have to go through the same approval process. The alternative is that we go. to the City of Saratoga for building permit. I'm not sure about that. That's. We did find some legal opinions that say if we could petition, we could ask the school district for possession of the building, so we own the building. But if we ever had to bond again for some other project, then ownership of the building would revert back to the school district. They would sell the bond, so it's unclear what the benefit of ever having ownership of the building would be. So I don't know why we would. We never have done. The debt was retired, so the final bond, so the building was, the bonds were sold, were initially issued in 1993 for the construction of the building. That they were paid off and finally retired in the first year, the year that I started. The debt service was included in the budget, in the first budget that I wrote. And the way the debt service worked was it was written into the budget, it was included in the library tax line on the school budget, so that when you get the property tax bill, there's that school tax line, the library tax line, and the library tax line at that time included in the amount for the debt service for the bond. That was never passed through to us, the library, the school district withheld it to pay the bond, and then it passed through the rest for operation. And so it never came to us, didn't pay it back because of that. It was owned by the school district. They had it included. And so, I think, yep. The district tax paid it through the library tax. Which I guess might.
All right, well, it's posted. Maybe every third or fourth round.
Well, and what I think that happens is that there are new people, and all I know is what happens, so there are
Yeah.
new people at the school district, there are new people. So apart from me and Sarah Dallin, who were part of this conversation, the people at the state library who were part of this conversation, people who were at the school district who were part of this conversation, have all.
Yeah.
So,
They must have,
yeah.
thank goodness you found those
Yeah.
emails that existed from then, I know.
But the good news is, the city has decided to fund our bench. For the purpose of our research.
What is that gonna
About
$12,000?
12,000, 12,000.
Did you want to add anything else other than the things that are in your report?
Don't. This month, I look forward to the New York State Improv door open.
Well, then compared to last year, this year you're gonna feel like there's just a breeze,
I
right?
hope so, you know, we need some tweaks to how we collect data, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, so you are up, and thank you. I had asked Don to specifically look at if anyone viewing our meetings. But thank you for that data, and thank you people who might be out there watching
I just checked, nobody is.
I know that compared to the school district, we're not as enticing.
Yeah, I wish there was a better way to display that, but none of it was, I had to, pick from here and here and over here. They have super analytics, but none of it's very easy to just, pull apart what you need exactly.
Well, that's perfect. I just wondered if anybody was, not that we would really make a change. But originally had these available, people are interested. Yes,
One of the things that might be.
that was with Jen, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was wondering, like, do you have other? Here, yeah, like, we're gonna have a kickoff meeting, to work on, what we're gonna do this year, but the seed library is definitely, one of the things. I'm hoping, something we did to earn our certification was to pay attention to our energy use. And we were tracking that, and we haven't done that since 2019. So I kind of want to retroactively do it. It requires looking at all of the bills and how much electricity or gas we use, because we've made several changes. So Rick can report and say, we've done this, but it'd be nice to see, since we've implemented LED lighting, what that has done, to see if there is actually a trend. So that's one thing I'm hoping to find an easy way to continue to report our energy. And we are going to, we piloted last year, staff composting in just one of our kitchens, and we're gonna implement that in all of them, so that everyone. Those are like three things, but a lot of stuff. And that's just the environment part. We still have to work on making sure we do this work, but highlighting our social justice. Meaning we always are talking about the social stuff. So like, the compost. So, right now I'm taking the compost when it starts. Pitney Farm has composting, and as part of a group operation. And they have to go out to the recycling. That's another platform. Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, sorry, Matt.
Oh, that's all right. I didn't, unless anybody has any questions about any of that stuff. The updates or the YouTubes.
Trevor, you're
I don't have anything additional to add. Questions like that.
Jean, I don't know what your question was about the Spanish language collection, maybe something. So this would be under Trevor.
Yes.
But also, you do see individual on
Those are people that are not living in congregate living facilities, they're living in private dwellings that are taking advantage of outreach delivery services. So
they're listed in here as individual rather than by name. And that's every part of the visit. Quite often Sarah has to politely refuse tea and cookies and but no, in addition to, all the visits are much more than just, dropping in his office. You all know, you have, you need to continuing the tradition, trying to make the time to just say. That's it. And as far as the Spanish language collection, in response, and I mean, we do have a very, very small collection of, let's say, world language, well, actually, not even world, I guess, most in Spanish, but there definitely is a need and a demand out there for us to have a actual developed collection of Spanish language materials, which could evolve into adding other world languages in the collection. So the first step is trying to find a vendor that has access to the material, but also access to the cataloging, which is very important so that we can have probably the cataloging done, and that essentially when we put forward with them, they will just send us the data that we can put into the catalog. And the items come in, essentially they're hopefully near shelf ready, they can just go out. So we can create a new collection. So we have the meeting with the product rep, at the middle of the summer, and the process is almost too easy, so we're but I mean, we gained access to a demo of their platform for purchasing, for browsing and purchasing. And I mean, just we'll see what the cataloging charges are, but prices for the individual materials are very reasonable. So that is something that we're going to, that we are in the process of pursuing.
Right, right. And so like, how would I know to do this?
Yeah, once we get the collection together, we have to get the word out to our regular channels. But first and foremost, in these schools, once we do have collection, we help those will go out to the various channels. Yeah, work with Gina. to get the word out that it is. And the thing is, and to have being able to, like, looking at the catalog was pretty exciting because you have, access to not only translations of popular fiction and nonfiction, but popular fiction and nonfiction that was written by, authors that they just, not just translation of, American actual. That's
And marketing them. That we were thinking of children's like school, like they are most. Which very hard.
Don't right have, bilingual, we don't have signage at all.
not yet.
I said,
We had a discussion, it came up 2 or 3 months ago that, started another conversation, larger conversation about wanting to eventually replace signage throughout the building. So, we're talking about either bilingual or going to pictographs, so icon-based signage possibility.
Catherine, services, I like your little graphic.
The one thing that I was thinking about after I wrote this, that I would like
you're being very, very responsible. This fall, every time you first I think here that I didn't. I had enough, partially because we added a library. But, you know, things like the music collection, we're working on adding kind of here, like, we're listening really hard to what people are telling us, and sometimes we move slower than they would like us to, but we're, everything that we're doing, you know, if you look at all the things going on, it's driven, you know, we're not saying, oh, I would like this game if I were a kid. They're telling us what they want. I hope that that kind of shines through, and it could be, I don't know that I say it a lot, but most of the things that we're offering, people are telling us, you know, or we're giving them. And did you find, because you did the reading program differently last year, that the burn the things have extra things? And those things then come to them, is there a little bit of excitement around, oh, we worked towards this and it's here? I think so. We saw that more when we did our school visits. You know, in the building, we saw a lot of crowds, and some of the leisure crowds when we did the school visits, they were talking about a lot. They might have come over the summer and they haven't been back a little bit, and we're like, oh no, we do have to put it out. And we did get that. Right. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Questions, but December was very much a learning to juggle everybody's, whether they were here or not here. So making sure we had enough deadline. Was a little quieter in terms of like the number of reference questions we had, and I don't know if that was weather related or holiday related or close days. So a little quieter than. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I realized that one. So that is my, reference and info questions, and it looks like it is. I can definitely send you a, updated one, it's 1,000 something. Oh. I didn't realize when I usually ask you to make it so it's clear. It's just reference questions. Yeah, that's what, that is reference and, information, that's questions. So that's the ones that people are asking in person as opposed to, phone, email, or chat. Can I just ask a program question? Yeah. In your, if Don scrolls down a little bit, down that one, do you go by, each of these headings and then choose, like, you're so balanced? I mean, it tries to be, like, I ask my librarians to think about where each, anytime we're gonna do a program, how it fits into all of our goals. And so, yeah, I mean, a lot of the programs could be in different categories, but we try to be pretty balanced, as well as, you know, take, if somebody writes into the suggestion box, we should have this kind of program, if we can get that rolling, we do, so, that's kind of the two ways that we figure out which program. So nice for the winter. Feedback. Oh, yeah, no more feedback, I haven't heard from anybody else. But I do know that, that presenter had been picked up by at least one of the libraries to do some stuff, so I'm hoping that she is. That's working out for her well. And she's also a featured artist out in this hallway, so check out her. Any other questions for Katie?
Really, you don't have a lot, as you saw, we converted the last section. Relates to
That'll help reduce our usage, but as you know, we reduce it down and the cost goes up. Just activate. Well, other than that, by cost. You know, the hard part about it. They'll give you a piece on the box that says this land is 50 thousand dollars. The hidden detail in the read every word, it says, use it over 5.5 hours a day, 6 hours a day. The usage dramatically, the hours that all good for dramatically declines. Instead of $50,000. So it's very complicated. And, you know, the 277 volts is a lot more efficient than 120 volts. But, you know, that's not something you want to do. They're all getting pretty competitive quality. You know, it's just, sometimes you have to buy much more quantity. Like, the LED bulbs, you know, when it comes to those high, wattage replace. So like one of those bulbs for the 400-watt metal halides, you have to buy a dozen special order. They were like $86. Now you buy the LEDs, they're 60. You know, but we're buying them local. We were buying them local, not having to ship. I try to look at the pricing structures, but I'm so limited in storage space that I'm trying to find that. As much as we can.
Okay, anything else, any other questions? Sorry, Terry, I had skipped over that there's no public comment. There's no special committee reports. Our one item on the agenda under unfinished business is proposed policy. Just remind people, it's something that we had decided we would like an attorney to review. And so this is the, I worked with an attorney in the western part of the state who works a lot with libraries. This has been policy with their changes. So you received also a copy of it without all of the corrections. So does anyone have a question? So what we're reading is what we want. Right, no, it's so the red is if it's crossed out, it means it's been changed. If it's red, like that next one that says access to real time or that's the change. And then obviously it wouldn't appear that way as the finish. It's just so you can see what things were changed. If anyone has questions, I'm sure I can answer them. Whole policy is new. The changes, yes, exactly. We have had the cameras, we just haven't had a policy. So this just clarifies for people both how they're what they're used for, and also, how long they're stored. Because that could be a question that someone could come to Ike to say, well, I want to know, blah, 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 and it would indicate, well, we're not going to hold footage for indefinite periods of time unless there was a particular incident, and then if there's a known incident, that's pulled out.
The question about disclosure. Full access to security camera recording.
Yes.
Second,
Well, right there, yep.
second paragraph. Says security camera recordings. Entry into library, use of library services are confidential library use of records. Goes on to say that should not be shared with any third party without consent of the library user or visual order or subpoena. And then it says unless such disclosure is determined by the director or the designated person charged, required for the purposes set forth in this policy. Am I then supposed to go up to the purposes of the security camera? I mean, I'm not sure what the guiding principle is there. If it is a confidential library user record, it seems to give discretion to like the library director, person in charge, to disclose. I don't know if you had any conversations with the attorney on this subject, but I was wondering if you had, and what their opinion.
We did about that, because that was really the thing that drove us back to have the conversation. The library law, the law about the confidentiality of library records does say that those records can be disclosed for the operation of the library. If it's reported to operate.
You talk about the CPLR.
Yes. So,
So
so that's one of the exceptions. So we could disclose it if it's required.
Which so would be consistent with
It would be considered.
this state law.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I mean, it's so. I almost think that it should then say that or something, unless such disclosure is determined by the director or the person in charge is required for purposes set forth in the policy and is consistent with federal, state, as it says on the other section, consistent with the applicable federal, state, and local law concerning confidentiality of public records.
It does say that.
It does do that in the purpose.
You're just wondering if it needs to be repeated under that access too, because it's taking you back up to purpose.
It's just not, yeah, I mean, it could be clearer. I understand and I read it that, okay, you want me to go back to purpose and then you say, while adhering to applicable state laws.
So what she did is she went in, because there were some redundancies, and she went through and she cut out everything.
Right. I mean, it just could, I guess I feel it could be a little bit clearer, but it's your understanding that it would still be consistent with any disclosure, would still be consistent with the applicable state federal law. So you're reading those two together.
So we could, the other way you could do it, I guess, is you could just shift and have access be moved up. Something. You know what I mean? Is it that, I mean, part of it is that there's so many things crossed out that it looks longer than I think that it is. But you could just change where the paragraphs sit.
And so this is for general public, it's gonna be on the website, right? Yeah. So I guess I'm thinking if we're a little confused, and somebody reads it and has some exceptions, but I feel like we probably want to make it as clear as possible, if that means saying the same thing more than once for people, that might.
If it was me and I was going to suggest something, I would just suggest adding something. And again, it would be redundant to what's already in there,
Right.
but it would just say, and is consistent with the it's also a reminder to anybody who's doing it to making a disclosure. Maybe there's some kind of emergency, or maybe there's some kind of incident and you need to disclose to the police or something, you know. But as you say, it's still consistent, that kind of disclosure would be consistent. So I don't know, that's the only suggestion I was thinking about.
I don't think saying under CPLR makes it clear to anybody but a lawyer.
I'm not suggesting that you put in that language under the CPLR, I'm just, the language we already have in a different section, that's all.
Right, but so what I was saying is, would it be helpful to just shift around where that paragraph sits? So you're not changing the
Would
language.
it be helpful to look at?
I
I have a clean copy in front of me. Are you suggesting the whole section, access to security camera recording? It makes sense to me where it is.
overview?
I mean, it says, you know, refer to the purposes set forth in the policy. Purposes are set forth, but there's a limiting principle in that paragraph.
where is the limiting?
So if you, the purpose of the security cameras, it lists
Yeah.
all the purposes.
Yes.
And then it's kind of awkward to me, I've done it this way, and then it says, and then there's a paragraph where it says, while adhering to applicable federal, state, and local law concerning confidentiality of public records, disclosure records. It kind of comes at the end, this limiting principle, about the purpose. So to me, that phrase, while adhering to, would actually probably go to, when you're talking about access. Because you're talking about confidentiality, disclosure, protection, privacy. Purposes
Oh,
of
I
purpose.
see.
That to me, that should be close with access, doesn't belong with purposes.
I see. Does anybody else have an opinion about this? Do you see what Frank is clarifying? So under purpose of security cameras, it indicates therefore identifying persons breaking the law or violating the library's code of conduct or other policies for investigating documented accidents or injuries on library property, while adhering to the applicable federal, state, and local law concerning the confidentiality of library records, disclosure of public records, and the protection of individual privacy. He is wondering whether that should be down in the access to security camera recording so that people know that those things are being honored,
Because that's where it talks about confidentiality,
right?
privacy. You know, so that, just that,
Or whether,
while to the end of it, just go
right,
at the end of
what
that.
do you think? Do you have an opinion, Jen, or anybody?
The conversation, these are my simple notes on the access to, was just a simple conversation that's the outside of the building, there's no expectation of privacy.
Right,
But once you walk in, our privacy, everything you do in here, there's an expectation of privacy. So
and then there were different levels of
that's
that.
the access, I mean, so it's, I see the whole thing as a whole thing and not in separate paragraphs, so everything is honored by the security, I mean,
So
and it was
you're-
to eliminate redundancy, I mean, that's what the process.
Well, what I'm suggesting, we're going to be redundancy.
You,
I understand.
you're just saying you move the while adhering to the applicable federal, state, and local law concerning confidentiality of library records. Just that one while adhering section. Because that's not actually the purpose, that's the underlying
That's my,
tenant, right, is what you're saying?
Yeah. That goes,
And where would you put that in the access paragraph?
I would just put it right after, so you have that paragraph where it says in, camera recordings showing entry or
Yeah.
confidential, do not be shared with any third party. Blah, 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 that's just disclosure determined by the library director or designated person in charge, required for the purposes set forth in the policy. And then comma, while adhering to the applicable federal state law.
Right. Does anybody have an opinion about that?
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think it's, we're not saying that, moving it.
Yeah.
Right, you're moving it to the access so that someone knows that that if for some reason the camera recordings need to be shared, it is adhering to these protections. Civil protections.
Well, I think specifically the question of the audience here, seems to be directing, this has to do with the authority of the director. Judgment, right? That what really matters is the director. That is, nobody's going to, if anybody who has questions about the policy, say, you know, I want access to this material. The director is going to say, yes, you can have access, or no, you can't, and here's why. So I think either placement makes it operational for the director. I agree that since the reference to the law specifically relates to reference, that it's more tidy to have that.
Rather than.
Right.
Heather, do you have an opinion?
No, I think as long as it's there.
I think, no, I'm convinced, I think I'm thinking, if there were something about the purpose of the policy, the purpose of the policy is to protect your privacy, but it's not, it says the purpose of the camera, which is the opposite.
Right.
So, I agree.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to move, to adopt this proposed security camera policy with the change of moving while adhering to the applicable federal, state, and local law concerning the confidentiality of library records, disclosure of public records, and protection of individual privacy, to the paragraph under access security camera recordings and begins with security. At the end of that paragraph, after policy, comma, and then while adhering. How's that for complicated? Yes.
Maybe, what if you don't add anything else and it's a freestanding? Let it be its own.
I think it might actually be better to refer to the original language than just strike that part. And because the original language will be recorded at the same level of confidentiality provided by the two library users by New York State law.
So that's just not as, so it's not as long as all of these pieces of state and federal law concerning confidentiality of library records and things. It becomes,
We could add federal and local.
okay, so can you read that again? Like,
It's in the-
So,
Could you go to the-
same level of confidentiality and protection provided by to library users by New York State law and Saratoga Springs Public Library policy.
Right, we could say New York State. local and local, New York State, local, New York State, federal law and service.
Okay, what do you think of that? All right,
Trying to figure it out.
Little,
so under access, that security camera paragraph, the second sentence that's crossed out right now, we would put that back in. Will be included the same level of confidentiality and protection provided to library users by however order you want to do it. Federal law, New York State law, Saratoga Springs Public Library policy.
So you would,
We put that back in and leave it there, so there's gonna be a redundancy to, under purpose that while a hearing stays.
No, strike it from the purpose of the hearing.
Okay,
so that comes out, and you want to put it where, right?
Just-
it's already there, it's
Just
just been
return it
crossed
to
out.
where it's restricted.
Right,
It sounds reasonable to me.
so under purpose, it'll say, investigating documented accidents or injuries on library property,
period.
period, cameras do not record audio. And then we'll put back the sentence,
Right,
And
and
then-
then add the local and federal.
Yeah,
okay,
all right.
thank you.
Yeah, very good. Well, this is indicating that, I guess we're saying no, we're just saying we would be abiding federal law, New York State law, and local law.
So you put that sentence at the end of that paragraph, or
Right now, it would then say security camera recordings showing entry into the library and or use of library services for confidential library user records. They will be afforded the same level of confidentiality and protection provided to library users.
man.
And then it will say by
Then
state,
such-
local,
And then we would
federal.
add federal.
Then you'll say such.
Yeah. That seem okay?
That seems reasonable, seems like, yeah, better.
All right. It's, right, we don't. Yeah. Is everybody comfortable with that?
But something is coming out of the purpose, so.
So what's coming out of the purpose section is we're crossing out while the hearing is applicable, but state law concerning confidential. That whole, we back to property, comma, to the period that then starts the cameras do not record audio.
So essentially, it was in, the sentiment was in both of those places, and it got stricken from one, it got stricken from the wrong one.
Right, right.
Essentially.
Okay, so now I'm gonna try again. I would like to make a motion to approve the proposed security camera policy with the change of removing the, after the comma, while adhering to the applicable federal, state, and local law concerning the confidentiality of library records, or public records, and protection of privacy, which is under purpose of security cameras. And under access to security camera recordings, adding back in the statement that confidential library user records will be afforded the same level of confidentiality and protection provided to library users, and it will allow you to do whichever order, federal, local, Saratoga Springs Public Library policy. Does that sound reasonable? Okay, someone like to second that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, whoever you tied, so you can. All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much for working out this detail. That is our business for tonight. I would like to adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much. See you next month.
Like those two meetings.
Oh, yes.